I, F24, worked at my previous job for almost 6 years and got fired recently. At this job I made 2 friends. One of them was like a little brother to me, M18, and the other F23. We'll call the male E and the female J. The 3 of us have all been friends for over 2 years. E and I have had our differences, but in the end we always made up. Or at least I always tried to, but usually there was some sort of argument/silent treatment, and things just kinda would get dropped after a bit. Jay and I, on the other hand, never had any issues until recently. Over the summer, E and I hung out a lot. Jay and I even had a small vacation over the summer where they met another friend of mine. We'll call her BF22. This part is important later. E and B really hit it off, which was awesome. I was really happy they liked each other. After the vacation there were several days B and I would hang out, and E and I worked together, which is where I'm sure some of our issues stemmed from. Too much time together. Over the last few months, E and I had gotten into more frequent arguments, and it started to feel as though I could never do anything right. E also had really bad communication problems. I'm someone who likes to handle issues when they come up and not let it fester. E, on the other hand, instead of talking about things, would either get quiet or very short in responses. I could always tell when something was wrong, as he was usually pretty loud. I would ask what was wrong or if I did anything to upset him, and he would tell me no and nothing and immediately go back to being silent until he either had a list of things he was upset about and finally told me after I periodically asked, or would drop it until I had an issue with him I wanted to talk about. I would tell him something he did hurt my feelings or bothered me shortly after an incident occurred. Every time I did that, it got turned around on me. Suddenly the things I told him he was doing or that upset me would turn into me doing all those things, and how I always hurt his feelings. This is always how it went. The last big argument we got into before everything went downhill, Jay and I were in the car talking. It was pretty mundane, so I don't remember what the topic was about, but we were laughing and having a good time. The 3 of us were very sarcastic and would playfully call each other names, rear, skank, SLT, etc. He had said something playfully, and I played back by mocking him. The obnoxious high-pitched meh noises. He said something to the extent of "don't mock me," but it still sounded like he was playing, so I didn't think anything of it, and admittedly I probably got too carried away. Before all of this, he asked me if I'd like to go to Walmart with him. We dropped Jay off and we went to Walmart. Once again, on the way there, he was giving the silent treatment. I realized I had probably upset him with the mocking, but I wasn't entirely sure it was that or something else, but I wanted to talk about it so I could apologize. I tried asking him what was wrong. Nothing, I said. He seemed upset. I'm not. I left it alone. We get to Walmart and still silence. I ask again if he was sure nothing was wrong. Yup, I asked if I upset him. Nope, I asked why he suddenly got so quiet then. I don't feel like talking. At this point I was annoyed because I thought, if you don't feel like talking, why did you still want me to go instead of just dropping me off when we passed my house on the way? So I walked away and told him I'd be at the door waiting till he was done. The ride back to my house was silent, and I didn't text him the entire night. I figured since he was obviously upset and not ready to talk about it when I wanted to, that it was then his responsibility to come to me when he was ready. He was the one with the issue, not me. The next evening I was hanging out with B and he texted me, "I love you." I said it back, and that was that. I figured it was the same as it usually was with him, and that he dropped it. Fine. The next day I asked him for a ride to work, and it was fine. We were talking, I helped him with his hair, all that. We get to work where it's just him, Jay, and I, and he again goes silent. Goes out of his way not to talk to me, but talks to Jay fine. Hours go by, and it's the same, so finally I asked Jay if she had any idea why he was upset. I thought maybe she could give me some insight, I could apologize, and it'd be done. Nope. She claims she doesn't know anything. I think to myself, okay, I'm not playing this game. Every time he acts like this I end up asking him several times why he's upset with me, but this time I don't do that. Jay asked why I don't just talk to him, and I explained to her how I always do that, and I'm not going to bug him this time if he's not ready to talk about it. I said I'm not going to follow him around and beg him to answer me. She seemed irritated by this, but whatever. He texts me later that night and goes, "Just an FYI, conversation works both ways. If you engage with me, I'll engage with you, just like I did with Jay. Did you ever stop to think that maybe I'm depressed and don't really want to talk? No, probably not. Not everything is about you, you know." This annoyed me. We get into an argument, and he's not making much sense. During this time I'm messaging Jay, and I'm venting to her about it, and we get into an argument. She then tells me we made her uncomfortable because we wouldn't talk blah blah blah. This is the first argument J and I have been in our 3-year friendship. It gets worse before it gets better. Her and I make up, then days later E and I make up and come to the conclusion that it was about the mocking. We make up and decide we would both do better. This argument was the turning point in all of our friendship. J and I were okay the remainder of the next few months, but the friendship never goes back to normal. Mine and E's does though, or so I thought. We get along for a while, do our normal thing, get into a few smaller arguments. The next one I get upset because he was being mean to me at work. I respectfully tell him my issue. He turns it around on me and says I'm doing all the things I told him he was doing that hurt me. Things go back to what seems normal, you get the idea. This all leads up to a month ago. My hours get cut at work pretty much out of the blue, it seems. I ask my boss why and she responds, "People have been complaining about your shifts lately, so we're trying this out to see how it works." I'm livid and I complain about this to E and J, not thinking either of them would have had anything to do with it. They both say they have no idea what issues could be had. They both say they didn't have problems on my shifts, etc. I was a shift supervisor, by the way. The next day goes by and I'm venting to a group chat of friends that work there or did at some point. Most of them not currently. E and J are in this group. Everyone's agreeing how they don't know what I would have done blah blah blah. Suddenly one of the girls messages me and said he messaged her that he's not the one who said these things, but that I was getting lazy and playing the victim a lot, etc. He knew this girl would tell me. That broke my heart. I messaged him, not to fight but told him I was heartbroken and lost and didn't understand.